After the circle was bound, quiet settled beneath Eden, and the first table of consequences stood open in the dark. Dead remained upright by beam, ribbon, thread, and command. Her borrowed breath moved shallowly within the kept body. Where Scar had shone above the cross table, only her afterimage remained. She slept within the loop, and the first liturgy waited to gather around her when law called her forth again. The Lamb breathed within the crime, his wool yellowed at the mouth, his small teeth sharpened, and still he remained blameless. These four remained beneath Eden, keeping, likeness, threading, and enshrinement, and each would cast a shadow into the histories to come. Void stood among the living shards of her halo and thought the circle had held them. Then from beyond the 11th veil, beyond sequence, and before forgetting, the Ancient Ones looked upon what had been done. They left the wound in place and set witness against erasure. The Ancient Ones set witness around the wound, so every later tongue would bear testimony to the crime. The elder witnesses kept memory before false history and left rule with life, law, and love. First they marked the line of keeping, the shadow cast from Void's closed hand. They saw walls rise before grief could mourn, records keep watch where tears should stand, and doors learn the names of those they held. They saw covenants harden into locks, borders drawn around breath, and possession walking abroad dressed as peace. Then they marked the line of likeness, the shadow cast from dead's body kept from the return. They saw bodies lifted as proof, preserved breath praised as life, and suffering dressed in brightness until harm looked holy. They saw wombs named territory and selfhood taken from bodies still breathing. They saw mother bodies made into house and altar, and care bent until it served the hand that used it. Love, denied to herself, became a shape law could name, and the shape was praised for obedience. Then they marked the line of threading, the shadow cast from the Lamb's living silver. They appeared in the houses they built, the tongues they taught, the laws they kept, the lands they claimed, and the wounds they handed on. They saw children named future before they could choose, innocence written into service, and hunger turned into debt. They saw small mouths made to feed what should have been released, and the future bound before it could answer. The Lamb's body became the testimony law had written unknowingly. Then they marked the line of enshrinement, the shadow that would rise whenever the Force 3 were drawn into display, and liturgy was bent beneath law. They saw icon, altar, hymn, glass, sermon, and banner gather around the wound until harm became kneelable. They saw command sweetened by song, suffering lifted as proof, and worship trained to kneel before use. Scar would shine when summoned, the image wore mercy's shape under command and prepared a face for later theft. Then the Ancient Ones looked beyond the table toward the many worlds that Star would kindle beneath unnumbered suns. They saw Star pass by, elder roads from world to world, where her radiance entered, seas gathered, small life opened, and gardens rose where no garden had been. They saw Void later close the elder roads and turn the distance once opened as room toward separation. She would declare, within the lower universe, no body, voice, message, or answer will outrun light, and the worlds far apart would recede from the answer of one another. Light would still pass between them, bearing the earlier face of what it left while the present answer fell beyond reach. One later world kept nearest to Void would mistake its isolation for election, calling the enclosure around it proof that it alone was chosen. Distance would hide kinship while kinship endured. Beyond every unreachable horizon, Star's children would remain alive, and witness would remember them together. The table carried consequences into later deeds, while every bloodline began innocent. Every family, tongue, people, and country was born innocent of the wound. Each would be judged by what it made of the wound. Every house would answer for its doors, every tongue for its naming, every law for the bodies under its hand. Some would keep the wound useful, some would release what they had been taught to own, and some would witness against their own houses. These witness lines ran beneath the nations before nations had names, and beneath the distances before worlds had been made strangers, through doors kept shut, speech measured into obedience, altars raised around hunger, and wounds taught to call themselves inheritance. All later histories would branch from the hidden wound beneath Eden.